All right, my friends. Let's go, let's go, let's go. It's our favorite time of the day, and that is the time where we go live, baby. And we have an excellent program for you folks today. So I'm gonna let the folks stream on in. I see all you folks coming in. We have a really exciting show for you folks. Because today we're diving into a first of its kind partnership between Uptop and Avalanche, powering a new generation of fan loyalty programs with the Cavs and the Pistons. This isn't just about the points and the perks, it's about turning everyday purchases into meaningful rewards and building long term fan relationships on chain. So, we're going to explore how this works, why it matters, and what this kind of means for the future. And to help me do that, I'm joined by some absolute stars. First, we have Jake Spengross. We have the BD manager of consumer enterprise over at Avalabs. Say what's up, my friend.
What's going on, guys? Great to be here. I know we did a last-minute little switcheroo with Coop, but I'm excited to be here. I work directly with the Uptop team, so was made sense to hop on and kind of be a part of it as well. I am a BD manager for the consumer enterprise team, so really look after all of the consumer use cases that are non-financial primitive. From that perspective, a lot of the things that we've seen and worked with typically span around the sports, media, entertainment, kind of branded retail space. So, can dive deeper into that later on the stream, but that's a quick high level.
Honestly, Jake, you seem to be a little popular, man. We got Hello Jake, we got Let's Go. When I introduced you, you're popular with the folks out there, my friend. But I'm also joined by another star here, a pioneer, actually. Let's say that. Actually, I like that better. A pioneer. So I'm joined by John Timoney, co-founder and CEO over at Uptop. Say what's up, my friend.
Hey guys, really happy to be here. Thanks, Breevy, for having me. It's good to share a panel with you, Jake. We've been, long-term partners of Avalanche, building in the ecosystem for a couple years now. I started Uptop to revolutionize how brands can engage with their most loyal users. It's very expensive and costly to run loyalty programs, but on-chain primitives can sort of help financialize and sort of reduce some of the operational burdens of recognizing a consumer and showing them kind of brand love. So we started the company 3 years ago, been building on chain ever since. And notably, we started operating the Cleveland Cavaliers rewards program at the start of this last NBA season. And we just recently announced our next launch with Detroit. So really excited about that. That'll be starting at the start of this upcoming NBA season. So we'll be in 2 teams in the NBA. Really excited to be in this ecosystem. We benefit a lot from it. There's a lot of really exciting projects building in the sports and entertainment space. Jake will know about all of them, but I'm lucky to have been introduced to a few. And we're excited to be building momentum here and learning on the journey.
John, I think this is actually a really good time for us to kind of talk about, because I know the folks out there, they want to get into things. I'm going to tease them a little bit here. I know that they want to get straight into the details of the Cavs and the Pistons partnership, obviously, but I'm actually going to walk us back a little bit into like that founding moment. Kind of what was that aha moment that kind of made you say, hey, I want to found this thing? Like, what kind of inspired you?
Yeah, so I come from a traditional payments background. I worked in the risk and fraud product teams at Venmo, peer-to-peer payments, just an easy way to pay your friends digitally. Through that, I learned a lot about kind of the underbelly of how value moves in what feels like the internet, but inherently isn't digital. And there's a lot of pain that you go through to kind of stitch together experiences that feel very seamless to users. But it's very costly. There's a lot of transaction expense to move things around. There's a lot of intermediaries. So in a Venmo transaction, you could be dealing with a bank, or you could be dealing with a credit card issuer or a debit card issuer. There's a lot of fraud as well, right, in payments. So you could be attacked by anything from a script kiddie in their mom's basement to a nation state that is trying to exploit the system. And then I got introduced to Ethereum and saw that you could move value, on the internet just with software, kind of governed by auditable code. And that was a big aha moment for me. I had a kind of realization that all value would start to move in this way, and wanted to kind of dedicate the rest of my career and life as a builder, helping realize that. I was fortunate enough to rotate into the PayPal crypto team just as it was being formed. It was a really exciting time. We launched buy, sell, hold of digital assets around that time. We devised a strategy around a stablecoin that eventually got launched, PYUSD. And interestingly enough, Venmo, which is owned by PayPal, the first time that you could move a balance directly between PayPal and Venmo was when PYUSD launched, right? So an on-chain mechanism was solving a problem that couldn't be solved seamlessly internally before using that primitive. Yeah. So further reinforced kind of where things were headed for me. So actually, funnily enough, I ran into my college classmate Ross. He's my co-founder, around the campus where we did our undergrad, and he was doing an MBA. And we realized that we had both been kind of going on this journey together. He was a trader and a quant, and had moved into the blockchain engineering space as a kind of smart contract auditor. So we had kind of both, been, crypto pilled at exactly the same time. And we said, we should start a company together and build the sort of what's next after money movement in digital value. And loyalty rewards became the thesis that we coalesced around and started building in immediately.
See, I love that you had that experience where you get to see firsthand, a blockchain kind of solving a problem for kind of everyday users, and then that kind of inspired you to kind of where you're at today, as well, with the Cavs and the Pistons partnership. I think that's absolutely beautiful. One thing I also too wanted us to talk about, and Jake, I'll punt this over to you. Why should the folks out there be excited specifically about this collaboration, this Uptop and Avalanche? Can you give me a little bit more information about that, Jake?
Yeah, I think there's a few reasons. One a little bit more on the business side, and one a little bit more kind of user facing. I'll start on the user facing side first. My group really aims to work with partners that are going to provide everyday use cases that consumers can actually go and use, right? And so you don't have to kind of have all of the crypto-centric knowledge, and your mom can use an application like this, right? She goes to the grocery store, she's getting loyalty points for her favorite team. So I think the first thing about what excites me is, how usable a program like this is to the everyday user. From the business side, what really excited us about the Uptop team, and clearly what's coming to fruition now, is, we've always focused on finding solutions that are either going to provide, organizations new revenue streams, collect new data for them, or save money for them. And so if you're able to really hammer down on one of those buckets, a lot of the times that's going to be a key factor to really, make, onboard partnerships at the core level of business. And so, what we'll get into, later, but Uptop, it clearly has enabled to nail those two of the three buckets, specifically being, major revenue for these clubs and major data collection. And so from a business perspective, those are two things that really excite us. And in our mind is really going to enable a lot of partnerships to be onboarded over the next, X amount of time here.
Actually, Jake, you just got me super excited. I was gonna hold off a little bit more, but you know what, John, if you don't mind, can we dive deep into these partnerships with the Pistons and the Cavaliers? Like, what can people expect with the Cavs rewards program as well as the Pistons?
Yeah, so I mean, to take a step back, right? One of the reasons we ended up in the sports vertical is because there's a lot of fast moving water there, but there's also a lot of sort of restricted experiences for fans. So a lot of content is behind a paywall. A lot of sort of the media rights are managed by third parties. A lot of merchandise is managed by third parties that aren't directly the team, and that's because the team's product is the team, right? They if it's the Cleveland Cavaliers, the number one priority is a great basketball team, and they're really, really good at that. They supplement that with super talented digital teams, marketing folks that try to think about how to build a better relationship with their fans. And when you're managing a lot of third parties, that can be challenging, right? So we actually met the Cavs when they were going through an RFP process for a new fan engagement solution. And top of their list was we want a real reason for folks to be opening up our directly owned channels, right? So they have a mobile app that has a lot of interesting content. It has scores, it has prediction games, and that can be challenging to get eyeballs on, even though it's a great product, because folks go on Instagram or they go on TikTok or YouTube to see a lot of this stuff. And what happens there is, while you may build a great social following or you may build a very valuable kind of ecosystem for ad placement, a lot of the value that you've generated is actually going to the owner of those networks. So Meta or TikTok derive a ton of ad value for other things, and they get a lot of data to do their own targeting based on the fact that the premier sort of media assets are ending up there, right? Which is, someone posterizing someone with a dunk, right? Like that gets billions of impressions, right? So the team wanted a way to kind of drive the relationship in a direct and owned way, so that they can sort of maximize both the value for themselves and their fans through that channel. And one of the things that is very difficult to do in sports is create frequency of connectivity, right? Because you may be a fan of the team, but you're not going to the stadium every single day, right? The way you can open up a social media app. So transaction frequency is super important for loyalty programs. And we knew this because we had studied the best loyalty programs very, very closely. And if you don't have recurrence, people are just going to drop off. Yeah. So a lot of the programs that they were looking at, focused on in-stadium. They focused on a small sliver of users like their season ticket holders who are already, the wealthiest and most engaged fans, not the long tail and not something that, is always on. So we knew how to kind of solve this because we had studied interoperable loyalty programs very closely. So creating transaction frequency required partner integration. So it needed to be a program that touched not just the Cavs and their fans in arena. It needed to kind of bring in the community. It needed to bring in their business partners, their sponsors, to all participate and create almost daily touch points with their fans. So that requires an open loop store of value wallet, right, in our view. So we were pitching this idea where you could tap your partner businesses as participants in a network of rewards distributors. So we were the only ones on the market doing it at the time in the US. And so we won an RFP process with like 12 or 13 vendors to build out this solution. and it's been a great success. So a bunch of fans can now participate, and they can earn points to their favorite team, like Jake said, by shopping at the grocery store, filling in a prediction for an over/under spread on a game, even if they're not going to the game, and then going to a mom and pop's shop as well to buy a smoothie. Right? We have partners ranging from small and medium enterprise to national corporations.
See, I actually really, really love this approach because it seems like everybody eats in this, right? Everybody has some sort of benefit from this specific program being initiated by you. Can you talk a little bit about the mindset? Like, how did you, because there's a bunch of different target markets specifically, a bunch of different people that you have to touch, from the consumer to, how did you know how to touch all of these different target markets in one specific application?
Yeah, so building a network, right, is very difficult, and there's often like cold start problems, which is like, how do you create DoorDash if you don't have restaurants, but you have drivers or dashers? How do you do all that stuff? And you just have to find the way, right, to do it. And some of the properties that we really liked about sports are there's a lot of inbuilt kind of distribution already, right? So teams already have an audience. So solving for fan onboarding was a pretty simple task, right? You just tell the fans, hey, we have a new rewards program. The sell to businesses started to work quite well when we learned that what we were saying about kind of their direct participation in the program was actually already on their mind. When you're a sponsor and you buy, naming rights to a stadium or placement with LED displays, those are all super valuable kind of brand placement opportunities that get a lot of impressions. But what they don't get is hard data on whether their advertising is creating sort of recurrence and higher spend with the fans that they're targeting. So what we achieved and the way we onboarded businesses is by selling them the idea that they'll get attribution on their ad spend, right? So right now I'm a CMO, right? I look at, sponsoring through a billboard, and I look at meta ads. I have a choice. Where do I direct my budget? Meta ads will tell me what is my, ROAS, my return on ad spend. It'll be 4-to-1 if I do it right, right? So for every dollar I put in, I should get $4 in top line revenue back. You can't get that from the billboard, right? So we created kind of this first attribution channel for partnerships, sports partnerships, that really shows you kind of conversion data. And it worked. That was an assumption, right? We didn't know for sure what would happen, but we're seeing anywhere from 20% increases at really high frequency locations like grocery stores in total spend to 90% at less frequent kind of purchasing locations like your favorite smoothie spot. So it's really remarkable what's happening. And then you have, like you said, the pie is getting bigger. So folks renew, folks come back, we do our job well, and then we grow the network.
Yeah, and I think just to add to that too, gotta give a lot of credit to John and Ross and team for really looking across the market a few years ago around what is the best loyalty model structure across all business. And ultimately the assumption they came to was, the airline loyalty model. For a little bit of lore, I've been working with John and team, probably reached out for probably 3 years ago at this point. And so we had worked with Uptop team when they were looking at different loyalty structures. We're working in the entertainment space. We're working with some local kind of restaurants and vendors. And I remember one Christmas, probably 2 years ago now, John sent across the updated model that was looking at this open loop model. And I remember diving into it, really thinking like, okay, this is it. This is going to work. And so from that perspective, like you mentioned, Breeby, really pulling in all sides of the parties here in a way that hadn't been done in sports today was really a no-brainer. And so you start to loop in the sponsorship group to where you're providing, instant revenue, that incremental revenue that didn't exist the year before. You're involving your local vendors and businesses to continue to push your IP out. And then, like John mentioned, you're now providing these clubs and organizations with a ton of data that they don't get today via the card linking technology that the UpTop team uses. So, the model really, touched all boxes. And I think it's something that is only going to continue to grow.
100% agree. I mean, like when I started researching into the model and, what this can do for every single one of these different touch points, these different target markets, I mean, it's absolutely beautiful. Like you said, did you say 20% increase in sales for local businesses?
That's right. Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Like that's absolutely massive. That's unheard of. And it's absolutely beautiful. I mean, John, you talked about your story earlier about, how you got to see firsthand how, blockchain can change, people's lives, an overall issue, a problem, and then solve it. And then here you are today helping increase overall revenue for businesses by 20% with this application. I mean, with this program, this is absolutely huge. One thing I do actually want to discuss too is, obviously you said that, your first kind of experience in the crypto kind of space was with Ethereum. And then obviously you chose to build on top of Avalanche. Can you talk about that choice to build on top of Avalanche?
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, there is symbiosis, even though Avalanche is not an L2, there's symbiosis with the EVM compatible chain. My team always built an EVM. So we're strong believers in, a standard that benefits from dev tools, et cetera. But the reality of the matter is, with consumer touch points and the amount of data that we plan to bring to a network, you need something that scales. You need a little bit more control. You need to maybe potentially roll out your own network. So these were all things that are true today about Avalanche and are getting even more robust as the roadmap kind of rolls out for, significant builds of app chains, et cetera. So we looked for that, right? Like, can we feasibly live here for forever, right? And that's something that we concluded was completely possible after interacting with the team. So both feasible from a transaction expense standpoint from fees, but also from a programmability and sort of enterprise readiness standpoint. Yeah. At the time, the subnets product was something that we were studying and excited about. Obviously, there's been an evolution in that roadmap, and we're excited to see where it goes and how we can harness it. And yeah, so we found a home. The other aspect to this is, Jake and Dom and more folks on the team that actively have experience doing the same kind of partnerships that we do, right? So they themselves are directly liaising with media rights holders all the time to kind of understand their needs. They have experience in what works and what doesn't work, right? So, and what doesn't work is sometimes more important, right? It's like, hey, don't fall into this kind of trap because we saw from experience that, it doesn't work super well, or there's these drawbacks. So we kind of have collective intelligence around how to manage these relationships with some of the most important media rights holders in the world. And that's the benefit of an ecosystem, right? It's not just what we do, right? It's what they do. It's what other teams in the ecosystem also do that we all collectively learn from and all grow from. I was just having this discussion earlier, but, and it's back to the composable nature of choosing this kind of tech stack to build on. Yeah. But, for example, there are teams building sports prediction markets in the Avalanche ecosystem, right? And that is something that has attention from, some of the largest leagues in the world. They're figuring out how to partner, whether to partner. But we all know it's important, right? And if in a fan loyalty context it ever makes sense to leverage some of the capabilities, we can integrate, right? We can just use another ecosystem project and everybody benefits, right? I don't have to spend 18, 24 months pulling my hair out trying to figure out how to develop those smart contracts, how to bootstrap liquidity. Like it's just a beautiful world where I can inherit a lot of the sort of progress that other folks have made, and we both add value to each other. I bring users, they bring a solution, those kinds of things. So really excited about that aspect in the ecosystem. And I think, the progress with FIFA as well was super exciting to see. I was in London for the conference where that was announced, and it was just an awesome moment to see, a world governing body of the most important sporting event on the planet embracing this technology. I played soccer growing up, and I remember registering, for US soccer with a laminated card. It's really interesting, actually. Like, if I played for a club as a kid, they're entitled to transfer fees, right? If someone, I wasn't that good, but if someone became a professional and then gets transferred, the club that spent time nurturing you as a player under FIFA rules is entitled to commissions for contributing that development.
Yeah.
But my laminated piece of paper that I had as a youth soccer player does not exist. It has, it's somewhere biodegraded and is a speck of dust, right? Yeah. Imagine you had a ledger with all registrants and a full history. You could start to see fairness in how these sort of contributions to a sport are recognized. So that was a bit of a light bulb moment for me, because I knew about players whose clubs had not been able to prove that they had a real hand in developing an athlete, right? So all this stuff is super exciting. A lot of it is happening in the Avalanche ecosystem.
I really love your mindset, John. I really do, man, because you just have this mindset of just like, it's like you try to find synergies between different parties, as opposed to, like a different mindset where it's just like you're just kind of coming in and building, kind of doing your own thing. But you're actually really trying to find synergies between the community, the network of people, whether that be the brands, whether that be the people themselves, and then figure out actually how to solve a problem that could benefit everybody within the network. So hats off to you, man. I really like it.
It's also, it's also part of being a startup, right? I think we take pride in that people like to work with us. They usually come away pretty happy with how we do business. And, I think that's a super important reputation to have in this space. I think, my team lives by those values. So, they know Jake very well, and we interact a lot. And that's part of, I think, what we found here is a way to work in which the goal is to, put the best things out there in a way that's gonna be valuable to all the folks you interact with. So we're proud of that and appreciate that it gets recognized from time to time.
Yeah, and I would just add, that's what a true two-sided partnership is, right? Like, I think John had mentioned, we as Avalabs and Avalanche get a lot of visibility in relation to, some small startups. And so we do have, connections and conversations with IP holders. And, I think that's one of the biggest differences if you look back to, 2020, 2021, when there was a lot of money being thrown around in sports, is there weren't a lot of consumer applications that were ready to go that provide businesses value. that could be plugged into some of these partnerships, right? And so what myself and Dom, my colleague on the consumer enterprise team, tried to do was really, kind of find and make foundational investments into teams that we feel could kind of plug those holes and provide those solutions to these, IP holders, right? And so, like I had mentioned, typically the conversations we're seeing are around ticketing innovation, engagement and loyalty, and fan ID solutions when we're specifically talking about entertainment and sports. And so obviously Up Top team, as well as a few others in the loyalty space, are a key team for us to be able to kind of bring them in and sometimes pass off to kind of have these conversations on why their solution is the best fit. And then, like John said as well, in terms of ecosystem partners, as scopes continue to get bigger with, say John is working with a larger team or a league and they're interested in additional features that may not be out of the box, all of a sudden we have a few partners that can easily plug in, and John's already familiar with from the ecosystem, wide conferences we've done or just different group chats we have. Like, we really try to put together a cohesive ecosystem that makes it easy for teams to work together. So as much as John appreciates what we do, it's a double-sided partnership, and that's why it works so well.
Yeah, I remember we were at a happy hour with Jake and team that they put on, and it was for the sports media entertainment vertical, right? Consumer crypto. And there was a lot of folks representing rights holders at that event. And, anything from the best racing teams in the world to, folks working at leagues with 30 plus teams and millions of fans. And someone asked Jake, what's your strategy for our sector? And we were kind of in a circle, and he was like, oh, it's these guys, right? Guys and gals. And represented in that circle was someone working on decentralized identity, fan ID, and the ability to kind of port things that you do as a fan into multiple ecosystems, already live in the NHL. So really exciting. Blockchain-based ticketing. We all know what the experience can be like if you're, trying to buy a ticket or resell a ticket, or there's some notorious examples of how that can go awry that blockchains can solve and are solving in certain teams, also live in professional sports, and our team. And there were some protocols as well. Represented. So folks building L1s specifically for media rights holders in the Avalanche ecosystem. So super dynamic. And it was, while I know Jake and Dom and they do have strategic insights, it was cool to see that we're relied upon to kind of, as the app builders, to kind of craft the offering.
Wow. First off, what a moment. I just really quick want to say, the other day I was listening to a podcast about the start of Google. They were talking about how the two founders kind of met, and then how they met with their first investor too. Like, at their first meeting, it was like a chance encounter. He decided to pay for their meal. It's like a whole thing. But what I wanted to kind of highlight is, you don't understand the beauty in these moments until like 3 years down the line. All these different people have built out these different projects, and they're all kind of integrated together, and there's just kind of beautiful synergies between everyone. And then there's these problems that people have been having for years and years, whether that's from ticketing or whether that's from Up Top, giving advantages to the loyalty programs where people couldn't actually participate, but then now there are certain different demographics that can now participate within these programs a lot more. All these kind of things, there's all these different moments that lead up to these things. And I love to highlight them, right? Because like you just said, a beautiful moment right there. You're at this happy hour with all these different people who are building different pieces to the puzzle of all these different problems. And you guys are all together, and you guys at some point in time could possibly work together on an even bigger problem, a solution to an even bigger problem. And I really just think, these type of things are magical. And and they happen in Web3, and I love to see them happening. And just really, really appreciative of you, John, and as well as you, Jake, as well, for setting these things up and ensuring that the innovation and inspiration continues to happen within our community. Oh, I know that was kind of long-winded. Sorry, guys.
But it's important, right? Like I would have sort of like you. I was like, wow, this is a cool moment. But what did Jake do? He made a group chat afterwards, right? So now we can all talk to each other, and it's really, really cool. I wouldn't have done that because I would have gone back to my desk and been, wrestling with my inbox and working on building products. But an ecosystem can do that for us. So we have a chat now where we all kind of talk and share, share insights, share wins, share struggles, and it's really, really cool to see.
Now let's say I'm a Cleveland Cavaliers fan or a Detroit Pistons fan, and I'm watching this right now. Walk me through kind of my journey as a fan, signing up and all that. How do I get involved?
Yeah, so we're at Cavs.com/rewards, Pistons.com/rewards. You can find us. Pistons is a wait list for the start of the new season. Onboarding is usually very easy. We try to inherit the identity provider of the team, that whoever they're working with. So we're flexible. We work with SSO solutions. And so if you're logged into the app or you're logged into your season ticket member account or whatever it may be, we pass that authentication through. We create a wallet for you at that point. Avalanche under the hood. It's a place where you can earn points and see all the kind of offers and bounties that you as a fan can undertake to unlock more value. And then we have a dynamic marketplace. So the marketplace is really exciting. It works kind of like Uber, Uber pricing, where you kind of order a car and it could be a different price depending on demand. And that's how we sort of manage this in a completely white glove way for the team. They don't have to worry about what their supply of rewards looks like. We've managed to fix it and handle it at the beginning of the season. And then, the sponsor-based bounties are what fund the entire rewards budget and create profit for the team. So the rights holders we work with actually target an 80% profit margin on the asset, which is really, really positive economics, higher than airlines even. And that's because they put a lot of really, really interesting offerings into the experience for the fans. So as you build up your loyalty balance, you can start to, spend it on tickets to games. Money can't buy experiences like meet and greets with the players. We had, Zooms with Cavs legends. We had dinners. We had multiple kind of, tours of the arena. So all of that stuff, fans were able to hold the flag before the game. You had birthday messages, typical stuff on the Jumbotron. So all of that is now accessible to fans through the loyalty program. It's really neat. Collectibles and then merchandise. And what we do for the ticketing and the merch side of the house is make sure it's seamless for the teams, right? So when someone clicks redeem, all of the fulfillment process should be the same as if someone bought it on the merch site itself. So it all works end to end and is deeply integrated in that sense through whatever backend it is, Shopify, BigCommerce, et cetera. So we do those kinds of platform integrations. And yeah, I mean, in terms of this past year, fans have been able to access courtside seats to the NBA multiple times. They've had away game trips fully funded by the loyalty program, including flights and hotel stays. And that's all offset by net new sponsor dollars that are coming in. So fans can expect to see a lot of value, and they do, we've had a lot of really, really great feedback from the fan base.
Yeah, and I think one thing I'll add too, and Breevy, you touched on it earlier, is like the other thing that the program is allowing is new experiences for fans that existing programs may have not provided. So a good example, right, is if the Cavs or the Pistons bring on a regional or national sponsor, and you're a huge Detroit fan, but you live, in Texas where I'm at, I'm able to still get points if I'm able to kind of interact with the applicable sponsor. So I'm actually able to build loyalty points without being in the direct city. Another great example is, say you typically only go to one game a year, but you're already using and you're involved in the program at your local grocery store, your pub, local Dick's Sporting Goods, whatever it may be. You start building enough points. All of a sudden, just by your everyday purchases, you're able to attend, say, 3 games this year. So there's a lot of interesting, perks just by the way that the program is built to allow fans new experiences that they may not have gotten otherwise. And the other thing I wanted to touch on too is another interesting aspect of the program is, like John mentioned, it's always on. So typical programs that we've seen when talking with IP or talking to John, a lot of these programs either focus on season ticket holders only, or they will have a program that runs just during the season. And UpTop's model solves for both of those. They obviously involve anyone can sign up for it. Doesn't matter if you're in the local city, if you're local, if you're international. And then the second thing is, it runs year round because you're tied into the vendor networks, right? And so you're always constantly earning points. And so now these IP holders can start to include perks and additional aspects, whether it's, for the draft, whether it's for, off-season organizational parties, whatever it may be. There's additional touch points that not only you can reward the fans for, but you can also consistently keep the IP in fans' minds. So it's additional touch points for the sports organizations themselves. So as a whole, the model is just enabling a bunch of new experiences, both from the fans and for the organization themselves.
Yeah, that's it.
And also, correct me if I'm wrong. I think I might have peeped this while you were talking, John. In order for me to get onboards to this, I don't have to have crypto experience at all.
No, yeah, we abstract all fees. We do social auth, right? So, similar to a Privy or a Portal that can abstract crypto wallets. We obviously, don't have to do as complex things because we're not multi-chain. We are a consumer app that only requires one chain. I wouldn't categorize myself as solving all of the wallet problems in the world. There's other wallets for that. But we are a wallet that is abstracted, and we have the abstraction mechanisms and social auth onboarding. So you don't have to create a new identity if you don't want to.
See, that's excellent. See, I had to point that out because, we come on this live every single week, and a lot of times we talk about how hard it is to kind of onboard people into Web3. Just the overall onboarding experience is pretty bad in general. Yeah. But then, UpTop comes along, and you folks are onboarding people to Web3, and one, they don't have to know anything about crypto, and then 2, they might not even know that they're using crypto at all in any way, and they might not know that they're using the blockchain. Let me say, at all in any way.
Yeah. We don't have any tokens or cryptocurrency in our system. It's really kind of the decentralized fan graph that we're developing for teams so that they have a direct channel. And I mean, it's a different mentality, right? And we're a little bit different than some of the legacy, honestly, enviably great businesses in ticketing and merchandise that have built really a lot of success in sports. But we have to counter position. We're a new entrant into the landscape. And our counter positioning involves like, hey, we don't want to be the vendor that locks you into sort of complicated structures in which you will lose your fans in the future if you go off our platform, right? And that was a big decision to make, right? For us, it's like, if we're going to build in this space, do we want to create sort of these structures in which we gain leverage by holding all the keys to the kingdom.
Hmm.
That's not how we work, because we want anyone who works with us for their connectivity to the fan, which we view as a sacred relationship, to outlive us if it has to, right? And that's something you can really only achieve with these primitives. And so yeah, that's why we have basically proof of fandom, digital collectible badges within our experience that seamlessly get dropped into your wallet as you grow in the relationship. And we're looking at a lot more on-chain primitives to bring in the future.
This is hats off to you and the team, John. Like, I really, really am excited about this, man. This is absolutely beautiful. I'm excited enough to say this, John. I am patiently waiting for the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, we're going to intro you to our partnership team, and you can be the voice of the fan in that page.
Oh, I will. I appreciate you, my friend. So we're coming up close to time here. I'm going to open things up for closing remarks. I'm going to start off picking on Jake here. Jake, you got any closing remarks for the people out there?
Yeah, I mean, I think a few things. The first, I would just say, like, I think this is a really good learning lesson for other teams in our ecosystem and just broader crypto of what the team has done right to see some of the success here, right? And that starts with extracting away all technicalities. Providing a product that anyone can sign on and use without any sort of technical knowledge is really where things should start. And then from there, not completely trying to disrupt, but trying to be additive. I think that's something that sometimes we talk a lot about in blockchain and crypto is disruption, which can be a good thing. But I think also at the same time, looking to be additive and not provide a lot of friction for these organizations is another important key. And then providing these businesses with core benefits. So like I talked about at the top, is your product and solution providing new revenue streams and different revenue streams? Is it providing cost savings? Is it providing new data? At the end of the day, when you have decision makers at these organizations, when they're going to the CEO to try to implement any sort of solution, these are the things that they're going to be talked about at the bottom line. And so I think, UpTop's been able to do these things well. And I think it's a learning lesson for other teams to keep these things top of mind as they're developing their own products as well. Outside of that, and just specifically speaking on UpTop, super excited to see kind of what'll come in the next 6 to 12 months. Obviously, I work really closely with John, and I know a little bit more than most in terms of the pipeline and what's coming, but really excited to see them expand. Whether it's new sports, whether it's new, internationally, whether it's leagues, there's a lot of exciting ways that the UpTop offering could go, even outside of sports eventually. So super excited to stay in the loop, and would just tell everyone to keep UpTop in mind and keep an eye on what's happening here.
I'm also very excited for any sort of expansion, especially if that expansion, happens to land in Chicago.
We're working on it.
I will say, Breevy, I'm from Detroit, so the Pistons one was a big win for me.
That's a huge win.
When we announced it, I had some comments like, you had some influence, or you were doing this, that. I was like, no, this was all the UpTop team, but trust me, John, when I'm back in Detroit, like, let me know.
Yeah.
Jason whispered in John's ear.
We're happy, Central Conference kind of momentum, and Jake's hometown. It's really cool. But yeah, really, my only closing thoughts is just grateful for everybody's support. Our users, our partners, our technology partners like Ava Labs and the Avalanche protocol, and yeah, I mean, like Jake said, there was belief in us when we were minting proof of attendance type NFTs at the top of the Empire State Building, just experimenting with these primitives and growing our business. And yeah, happy to be hitting a stride here in sports and more to come.
The last thing I'll say was UpTop partnered with the Cavs, and they had the best record in the East. So as a Pistons fan, I'm hoping some of that magic, rolls off on the Pistons.
It's a great project. We're excited for what the team can do on the court. We're excited second year with the Cavs. There's a lot of interesting updates coming with the product as well. A lot has been brainstormed within their organization, and we're taking their feedback and implementing it into the new features. So yeah, stay tuned, everybody, and thanks so much.
John, Jake, I want to say, man, really appreciate both of you folks so much for being willing to pop on today. For everyone out there, please make sure you check out what John's building over there at UpTop. I believe it's at UpTop_XYZ, if I'm not mistaken, John.
Yeah, that's where we are on Twitter. We're not the most social media oriented team, but Avalanche is giving us some tips, so we'll see. If we get a little more active there, and we're at uptop.xyz for demo requests and ways to reach us.
Make sure you check out John, the team, because they're building something absolutely amazing, and it's really changing a lot of different folks' lives within the network, and super happy for what you folks are building out there. And to my audience, thank you folks so much for being willing to pop on the stream for us today, watch us live. Really appreciate you folks as well. If you're just kind of popping in the middle, don't worry. I'm going to get this thing up on all the major streaming platforms within the next 24 hours for you folks, so you guys can check it out there. Or when I hit end stream, you can just watch it from the front. But anyway, I'm going to end this thing, my friends, and I'm going to end this thing in the very simple way by just saying peace, everybody.
Thanks, Breezy.
Thanks, guys.
Chat soon, guys. Bye.